All right, let me open up all the chats and stuff real quick. But welcome to What the Heck. I hope that audio worked, or it would have been real awkward for me right now. We have Bbartokk and Alex, and hopefully that was high quality. It said it was supposed to be high quality, so who knows?
It sounded high quality.
Okay,
Sounded very high quality to me.
extra high quality. I'm still moving chat windows around so I can see stuff. Whew. Okay, cool. All right. Welcome to What the Heck, as enthusiastic electrons just put in all caps. Again, we have Alex and Bbartokk and myself. We're going to do intros real quick. I make bad synthesizer music with drums, and also I want to know what the most recent module you put in your system is, which I actually already know because Bbartokk volunteered it. But for me, it's this one that I also most recently removed from my system. It's this dual quantizer, and am I doing this right? Oh, there we go. Everything's mirrored. Anyway, it's a Cosmo module. It is the most complicated Cosmo module I've built, as you can see by all of this fancy wiring and like resistors around each rotary switch. Anyway, we'll come back to that. Bbartokk.
Yeah, so I just spent about the last hour completely removing everything from the top portion of my rack so I can fit in the new Heckseven Black sequencer. I took out my 1010 music toolbox, which I've been using for a long time, and I'm going to try using this as my main pitch sequencer from now on.
We're gonna have to take a closer look at that soon.
Yeah, definitely. I finished that, and then I saw the time, jumped onto here, so I haven't even powered it on, but I've got it in the rack over here.
Oh my gosh, that looks so good.
And after this, I'll power things on and start exploring, and then I'll probably do some streams of just me learning it as I go along.
Very cool. So more Bbartokk streams very soon. Stay tuned. Alex.
Yeah. My last module I put in is still the IntelliGel Metropolis, which is the version 2 of the Metropolis. So I'm still kind of exploring that and I'm trying to stay disciplined by like staying with it, exploring with it. So I'm kind of making it work on a current patch that I've got going for this Saturday, which is an EMS, which actually is the DivKid takeover of the EMS that's scheduled for this Saturday. And so that's, I'm making sure that I'm using my brand new module as part of that.
That'll be rad. I am very much looking forward to that. All right, we have a lot of stuff on the list now. I know that I want to start off real nerdy this time. Let's talk reset signals. Robbie was interested in talking about reset signals, whether you use them, what you use them for, and how sort of how you set that up. And I'm a reset signal lightweight. There's only one module that I really need that for, and it's in the garage waiting for some LEDs. So I'm curious to hear this as well. Alex or Bbartokk, do you use resets?
Take it away, Alex.
Resets, I use them primarily when I'm connecting sequences, or I've got multiple sequences in a patch. So for example, Metron is my main clock that I run then out to various things, and so sometimes I'll be using the black sequencer. As you heard, I'm using the Metropolis, and so typically my use case is I'll send the reset out from Metron into, for example, Black Sequencer. Now, what I will sometimes and often do is I don't keep it there. What I'll do is like, because I want to start messing around with Black Sequencer or Metropolis and do some stuff, and I don't want the reset necessarily to interrupt what's happening downstream. But so what I'll use is the reset as, hey, let's just get on the same page. Like I'll just plug it in for a couple of loops or whatever, and then I'll typically take it out. And then if I feel I need to apply the reset because something's gone wonky or I've changed something and I feel, then I might just jack it in for a couple of loops and then take it out. So I've done that. And then what I did do is I've used the two Metropoli, and use the reset out to speak to the other Metropolis, so that I've used in the past. So that's generally how I use it. When downstream I've got sequences, that's my use case. Nothing quite unusual.
Yeah, that seems to be like, the more I think about it, the more it needs to be something that is either a sequencer or like Data just said in the chat, resetting like a clocked LFO or something that or really anything that syncs with the clock, you might need to reset. But I almost think there should be a module for that, right? Like I almost want you to be able to have a module that, I don't know, 2 HP wide, 6 outs, all of them just reset signals with a button on it that you tap whenever you need to reset it, rather than having to jack in at each time. That way you can really quickly, like if sort of things get out of sync, just boom, and you're good to go. See what I'm saying? You can just leave the resets plugged in.
Yeah, that definitely would be interesting. Me personally, I've never used the resets. And maybe it's just because I haven't understood its usefulness, but up to now, like I spent a lot of time. So I used the Metron as well, and before I've been using the 1010 toolbox, and I'd spent a lot of time really dialing things in, and making sure things are synced before I save the sequences, and doing a lot of math too sometimes if you're doing polyrhythmic stuff, like so I don't have to reset. But I've seen on chat, Robbie's been talking about using the reset signal, and its uses for it, so I might have to explore that and see what am I missing out by not using it. Clock LFOs, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense, Bartok. And then I am reading some of the chat comments, like clocked LFOs, you need a reset. Austin Smith says, yes and no. I mean, I wouldn't say you need a reset per se. You might want to just clock it from another division, from something like a clock divider or something else. It's not necessarily a reset per se, but I understand also the point that you're making on there. Yeah, and then Anton's making the same point there. I don't know, like reset is not a special signal; it's just another gate signal, and so it's all dependent on the use case and how you want to use it. And it was Robbie that suggested that as a topic. What is it? Where is he? Robbie, what the hell?
Robbie's making dinner. I did invite Robbie after suggesting that. Robbie might pop in later and we can revisit it, but I wanted to quickly mention Data was saying, a lot of sequencers sort of have a run control voltage, which is sort of a high and low signal that gets sent out. And the only reason I know a lot about this is because I was reading about it this morning for the pyramid, because I was thinking of either controlling the clock with my modular, or sending the clock out of the pyramid into the modular at a specific clock division. And it also can send out the start and stop signal, like if I had another sequencer out there, But that would also require using the one CV out that it's got. So it's got CV out and like some other things, but like it's not. I wish it had a few more outputs there. Anyway.
I could see it being really useful if you're doing, polyrhythmic stuff, where you can't do a simple 8, 16, 32, 64 step sequence, and you really want to do some a 5-step sequence. So then you would send out a reset at like trigger 5 to go back to 1, and then that's how you could force it to do a 5-step, 7-step, whatever.
Right, and.
So like on the Metron, you can program on the 5th step a trigger from the Metron and just go right into the reset and restart it.
Right. And so the reason I was looking into this was I'm going to be building a sequencer that's sort of the evil eye 8-step sequencer that can reverse or whatever, and it does have a reset input. And I was thinking that it might be handy to intentionally trigger a reset every once in a while.
Absolutely.
Bbartokk, as you were talking about that Metron use case, me of one of the early things I did when I got the Metron, which is what I wanted to be able to do is like programmatically force it to go from A to B to C to D to A, right? And so reset was not where I went on that. What I did is I remember figuring out, like I had a particular track on A that would send out a gate, and I can't remember if exactly it was like the very last step of of this 30-second. Then I would configure input CVA, because input CVA you can configure it. It's just like go to the next program.
Go to the next, yeah.
And so that's what I was able to do, right? And then, so that that's a form of a reset as well. But it all just simply a gate and a division of something that you decide to define to be able to just reset or move things along. So it's funny. Like reset is just a gate, right? It's just another ping, and then. Does something receive it as a gate? Does it receive it as a reset? Like, what are you speaking to? And does it understand the intent of receiving a gate?
Right. So I think, in terms of if you're designing something, then it's definitely useful to have it, because, even if you don't always use it, just to have that option, it opens up the module for a lot more features.
100%. And I'm just looking to see if there's any controversial points of view in the chat about reset, because it feels to me it's like something that people have strong opinions about. Do you know what I mean?
I think that from my perspective, not using a ton of resets, I think that a lot of the passion comes from frustration with clocks drifting from each other. Like they're talking about Colin Benders fighting that, and I imagine with a system that size, if you have more than one sequencer happening, you're going to see some drift between two sequencers. Like it's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah, I really do think that's the primary use case. Otherwise, everything kind of works, and so it's about clocking, right? It's about clocking, and then just getting like if you've got a part of 16 or 18 or 32. You want to avoid the drift. The trick is like finding the right division so that it doesn't interrupt downstream thing. Like what's what? Like it's terrible. It's like there it is. Everything's like apparently working. You send it a reset and it just sounds off, even though technically everything's back on.
Oh, you wanted to. Wilcast Messiah, you're not missing anything. We're pretty much having the exact same conversation as chat, only Data's informing us of all the details, saying Colin actually wanted his clocks to drift intentionally, which that seems trivial to me, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I know you call that wonky clocks, right? And that was almost like syncopation and this idea, well, I don't know if that's actually technically the right word, but I remember watching that session on the Colin Benders thing, and that's what he was getting at. It was having like, steps of 5 and steps of 7 and steps of 9 and 16, and then letting these things with a little bit of swing in between, still allowing the swing still to occur. Which, by the way, just out of interest on that point, I don't get swing. Like intellectually, I get it. I don't hear swing. It's so weird. Like I can't perceive it. I think there's a neurological outage that I've got, that I don't actually perceive swing. I don't get it. I mean, I understand what it's supposed to do, but I never hear it. Do you?
Well, yeah, I can hear swing. It's frustrating to me sometimes to replicate it. Like, I think a lot of the times when I've got something going in my head, there's often swing, or I'm in a time division and don't realize it, like a weird time division. And not knowing enough about music theory to differentiate, or at least not paying attention enough to, I guess, those patterns, it can drive me crazy. But yeah, I can hear swing. Uh, I don't often love it, so I don't use it a ton.
Yeah, so to me, I can hear swing, um, but uh, to me, swing in the Eurorack world is really, or in the computer world, it's really weird because you're forcing what to me swing is a feeling, right? So when you got a jazz band that's swinging, um, the bass and the drum are just slightly, they've got this rhythm going that's just so hard to duplicate with a strict metronome style rhythm, and then when you force that into modules, it kind of feels a little hokey to me.
It almost
But
just feels like the notes are in the wrong spot to me, like they're delayed or something.
yeah, it is going to be delayed, right? Like think of a swing. Um, if the downbeat was at the bottom of your swing, swing allows you to be slightly off of where that beat would normally be, and
Right.
the higher you go, the further off that beat you are. Um, it's just um, to me, it's awkward when it's done through the synthesizers.
See, uh, Data had a good point in the chat, and Data said that's why you use an envelope to modulate it. And I think that might be a good idea, because like my problem is I'll apply swing to like an entire sequence, where really I think swing works the best with emphasis on specific points. So
Yeah,
you could use an envelope in that case to basically turn on swing for just that
yeah,
note or
because
two
then
that you
then
needed.
then you're not having that same pattern consistently. It should be where it's a very um, free flowing happenstance,
I
but
mean,
on rhythm.
totally. But Barto, you're making total sense. And Heckseven, I'm tracking. I'm see his interesting thing. And Austin said that I also can't hear swing. But like, so intellectually, I get it. And I think that I even program swing, um, in the sense that, with Metron you can do micro timing, for example. And micro timing, well, in that context, just simply means it's not like on the straight 16th or the rest of it. You can have that kick or that snare, you know, in a across the 32 step sequence. So like change it a little bit, like, and so and it's interesting. I think it's a neurological. You either perceive it or you don't, or it's so subconscious. And I think maybe that's the case in mine, that it's so subconscious that I just don't pick it up. I'm not denying this thing called swing.
I know
Um,
you're not denying it. Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
wonder
yeah.
if there's just I wonder how common it is for people to not really
To
like
not
hear
hear it,
swing.
yeah.
Like it sounds like we've already got um, Data, or somebody in the chat said they couldn't hear it, and you can't hear it, which means maybe a significant portion of the world are not enjoying the swing as much as some jazz musicians are.
Yeah, and it's but look, when it's subtle, it's so subtle but like it's just the thing. When I apply swing on a snare, for example, like in Metron, it goes from 50%, which is at 0, and then you turn it up to 60 or 70. I'm listening for it, and it just kind of like I don't fucking get it. I don't hear it. And then maybe when I go to the extreme, then it just sounds wrong. Like it's just like
Right.
it's not cool anymore. So I've got I have an outage on the middle. It's funny. I'm going to do some research on that. I haven't thought about doing that.
Yeah, I think we have some good points in the chat though, where we can add some modulation to it, use some envelopes, and I would maybe experiment with that and see if that changes it for how you hear it.
Yeah, that might be a fun thing to try. Like I've been like doing accidental swing with this. There's a patchable coming up. I want to say next week, and the theme is either polyrhythms or polymeter or both. And I stick with polyrhythm because it's less math for me, and having some different like melodies and things played polyrhythmically. Like what I played for the intro was like an outtake of stuff that I'm probably not going to use that had some polyrhythm in there. But like if I'm playing like a 7/4 and like maybe a 4/4 or something, sometimes the notes in there just naturally fall into sort of a swing state, which is kind of fun. Like it actually feels like a good swing, but I rarely get swing on purpose. Unless I'm like playing a physical instrument. It's easy when you're like playing drums or guitar or something. All right, I want to move on from swing to the Erica Black sequencer because Alex has had it for ages and Bbartokk hasn't even turned it on yet.
So is this let me understand, Bbartokk. Have you has it just arrived and you're about to go for it?
Yeah, it came in today, and before the show I was making space for it. I took out my 1010, and it's going to replace this thing. So
why what
yeah, so why change it?
Why? Yeah, well, why? Why?
Yeah, it's a big change. And it took me a while to kind of get used to the toolbox and understanding its workflow. But, uh-oh. You guys hear me? I lost audio.
You're good. You're good. I can still hear
okay.
You.
Okay. So, I just started getting a little disappointed with the toolbox. They changed the way that the main functionality works at the time when they sold it. There's some mute functions that I use for performances that were really easy to mute different channels, and there was a way that you would advance to the next sequence. You could go back to the next sequence. I could have, I don't know, I never reached a limit of, so I'm saying unlimited number of sequences saved, and I could easily maneuver to them, and they started just changing how that worked. And I understand the changes. I think they were trying to make it more like their Bitbox device. But to me, as how I use it as a performer, it just really changed. So I stayed on an old firmware. There was a couple of issues that came up, and they maybe teased that it was going to be addressed. But last month, the next firmware, so now two firmwares back, came out, and they didn't really address any of the issues as to their main selling points. If you look on their website, their demo for the device still showing the old firmware that I have.
So one half of it is you just got pissed off with the module that you had and not satisfied with the direction by the developers about where it was going. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say. And that's one half. And the other part, I really liked, on the Erica Synth sequencer, I really like seeing how you use the different knobs to control everything. That was one thing on the toolbox. It's a touch display, so I had some options as a performer, but making changes on the fly would have been really hard. So, I spent a lot of time building multiple sequences, but I couldn't really change the notes. It's a touchscreen, it's kind of small, and it would be really hard to do. But looking at the Erica synth on how you could change that on the fly, it just really appealed to me. So, for those two reasons, I decided to give it a shot.
And then, out of interest, do you have? I don't, but do you have the drum sequencer by Erica? Is that
No.
no? Nor do I. So okay, because and the reason I asked that, Bartok, is that I think that these different designers, module designers, and the rest of it they have an aesthetic. They have a point of view, an opinion about how you go about doing stuff. And I feel that when you think about the drum sequencer that's been around in the market a long time, they've learned about that. And I think and it's at its heart, it's a performative tool. It's designed to play in a moment. It's not about menu diving and fucking around and getting lost and this, that, and the other. It's like get something up and running and then off you go. And I feel that aesthetic and that opinion finds its way into Black Sequencer. It's very much you can definitely do the pre-programming. You can definitely just figure stuff out. But then once you've got a fundamental thing going on, it absolutely lends itself to let's go. Let's start playing. Let's play this as an instrument and riff.
Yeah, and that's what I look for in my modules. I have a lot of like the little joystick, which it's a basic joystick, but I love that because it's very performative. I have VCAs with big mute buttons and mute switches and things that I can change on the fly, and I'm not just setting it, forgetting it, and hit play, and letting it do its thing. So I'm looking forward to exploring it.
And then, did you? Sorry, Heckseven. Just one last question. I'm sure you got questions
You're
of your
good,
own or
you're
whatever.
good.
But did you get to check out the? It was a video that came out just over a week ago, which was the video manual that was not done by Erica.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, did you buy and pull the trigger on the Black Sequencer prior or post or
post the video?
So you saw that video and you went, "This is it."
Yeah, because I've been looking at it for a while, and my frustrations with the toolbox, I was kind of waiting to see what they did with the new firmware and some of the stuff that they were saying. So I kind of been holding off, and the Black Sequencer, I've been looking at it for a while, and it has pretty much all of the same features, but I just couldn't justify completely switching it out and spend time learning a whole new module, especially one that's the brains of everything. But I watched that manual video, and that really just said, okay, I like this. I think it was the same day. I watched that video and then I bought it.
We should not be allowed to watch videos, I think, because that's where we get into danger zone. What are you going to do with your old sequencer? Are you going to hang on to it for a potential future case, or what's the plan there?
Yeah, I'm going to hang on to it at least, for a little bit, just to make sure, okay, this is, the road that I want to go down, and I'm comfortable with the Black Sequencer, especially since I'm playing next week's Patchable Performers. So we'll see how it goes. And I don't know if I'll save it. I might sell it, or
you never sell it. Yeah, never sell it.
Yeah. I won't.
I'm so bad at selling shit. There's always this part of me that goes, but you never know. Do you know what I mean? I might regret the sale. I have I have to go through and commit to a sale process of a bunch of stuff that, like, I've just got to commit. One last point on the black speakers, well, at least this. The thing that I loved about that same video manual, Bartok, was when he was going through the process of how to record MIDI in and the various different approaches to recording MIDI in, including, hooking up a KeyStep Pro to Ableton, to, and the different modalities in which you can do that. And I went, man, this is like some really cool shit.
Yeah,
I've got to experiment. I haven't done it, but like that was like, oh, that's got to be my next experiment.
yeah, and that's what I really liked about the toolbox. So on the toolbox, there's a MIDI in, and so I would connect my KeyStep MIDI adapter straight into the module, punch in my notes, and it would put them all in. So it was really easy to program sequences, and then you could easily copy a sequence, make a new one, and then make some minor changes to it. So yeah, that's a big way of how I put notes in, just because like I come from a piano background, so I'm really comfortable with that.
And you do something like that, Heckseven, don't you? Like with what is it, the Hermit or the Pyramid or something like that?
The Pyramids,
like,
yeah. Yeah, so I do something like that. Like, it's not like I'm not recording it into like a module or sequencer in sort of the same way, but yeah, I do have a keyboard connected as an input to the Pyramid, because the Pyramid is a bunch of pads and they're not really the most fun for me to play. I would rather use a keyboard. They're just more tactile than the rubber pads. Also, the rubber pads can stick, but yeah, I just use that as an input, and the Pyramid's great in that I have it set up where if I change the track I'm on, so if I change the instrument to like my MS-10, for example, I don't have to do any MIDI stuff with the keyboard. It's just always on whatever the current instrument is set to, which makes it really, really flexible. It's not quite the same, because I'm not like, I don't know, maybe they're similar enough of a workflow. We got a good question that I can't answer, and I don't think any of us really can, so I'm going to just pop it up on the screen so that folks can see it. But Anton asked, which joysticks do people like? The new Erica Synths looks good, but the Planar 2 also looks good.
So I'll jump in on this one. I have the Bbartokk joystick.
Oh, you do? Right.
Yeah. And I use that a lot. That's when people ask what's my favorite module, that's one of two.
Right.
I looked at the Planar 2. To me, though, the Planar 2 isn't a joystick module. It has a lot of features. You can record, and it uses a joystick to do those functions. But what I really wanted in a joystick module was just the ability to manipulate CV. And the Bbartokk joystick was perfect for that. Plus, I was building a lot of modules at the time, so I have a lot of Bbartokk modules. And there's another DIY kit that's out there that I think it's Horsetronic. Is that right?
I don't know.
Which is just very simple. It's a joystick, and you've got some CV. You have some gates, CV in and out, basically, and then for X and Y channels, and you can control the range and the offset of the voltage. I just was looking at something basic like that. The Planar 2 is just a completely separate beast in my eyes.
I am interested in building a joystick. I have the joysticks. I've tested them. I haven't worked out the circuit yet because that's something I need to breadboard. But from what I can tell, you basically have a couple of ins and outs, or maybe 3 ins and outs if you've got the 3D or 4D or whatever joysticks. And it means I'll be likely making some circuits for either attenuators or, well, attenuators are easy, but probably an attenuverter for each signal just to add some controls. Is that something you use often?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And then the other one somebody mentioned was the the dope for one, that big chunker, that thing's
Yeah,
giant.
the chunky one.
Yeah, but that one adds, has a Z axis as well. It's just so big. It's not, my case is designed for travel, and that one, I think you'd have to take it apart if you want to close up the case. But again, just really simple. Basically, it's a 2 levers on a joystick control.
Yeah, that's cool. And I do have a couple of joysticks. There's some that are very simple 2-axis, but I also couldn't help ordering, like when we talked months ago.
Yeah.
I couldn't help ordering like the 40 one that's got the Z-axis, and the fourth dimension apparently is just a button on top. But the Z-axis, for those of you not familiar, is actually rotating it. So you rotate the knob, and it. The things I don't like about that one are that everything is sort of spring-loaded, including the Z-axis, which would be very temporary in terms of effects, like it doesn't stay. And I could pull out some of the springs, but I don't know about the Z-axis. I didn't pull it that far apart. I'm leaning towards the 2-axis one.
Yeah, one comment I will make is the joystick on the Bbartokk, it goes back to center, and that's one thing I don't like. So on the planar, it stays where you place it. The Bbartokk, if you let go, it pops back in the center. What I did is I went in and I removed the springs.
Yes.
What, you brave lunatic?
I was gonna suggest exactly that. Like, you can remove the springs, but it only goes so far. Like, it's not perfect.
So removing the springs, at least it doesn't snap back, but it still just drifts back. One other thing I heard that you could do is there's like the little rubber disc, so when you move the joystick, it can move along. And I've heard that if you cut that open, basically, because that's pushing the joystick back into place as well, that might help with the drifting. But
yeah, and honestly, I would even just remove that because it's useless and doesn't look as cool. Like, if you remove it, you get this like steel ball thing below it. That's
I'm just worried about, I don't know,
dust and
something
stuff.
getting in their dust or something.
I wouldn't worry about that because, again,
Wait,
the ones
hold
I
on a
have,
second.
like,
You're past that already. What are you talking about, Bbartokk? You're removing springs, and then you say, "Well, I'm not going to go that step because I'm worried about fucking shit up." I'd be terrified about fucking shit up. No.
Well, I was gonna say, just like, let me send you some links if you remind me tomorrow when I'm not a little toasty. I can send you links to other joysticks because, as far as I can tell, the ones that I got all have the exact same footprint, and so you could potentially just swap it out. Like, the one I liked the most is, I think, like a cheap one for designed for like outdoor cameras or something, but it's actually designed to stay in place via friction. So if you move it to the left or right, it stays wherever you put it. It doesn't want to go back to the center.
Yeah, and I've found just a joystick as well. I think Mouser or DigiKey or somebody has them. Yeah. So I could go down that road, but
yeah, that might be the least destructive route.
But it's the same with gaming. When you've got a joystick and you've got like, I don't know whatever the things are that it's called. Like, there is a calibration you're doing where you let it go and just recenter it, and sometimes you can override that. It's like, I don't want it to recenter when I don't want to spring it back. And as trivial as that sounds, that is a big deal on these Nintendo controllers, the PlayStation, the Xbox controllers. Is like, what are the ergonomics, like how much you want to like let go and everything resets versus like stay. It
changes the type of tool it is, right? Like, if it goes back to center, it's the same as my stutter, right? Like, it's only active when I'm physically messing with it,
right?
Like, it's only doing what it's supposed to. Otherwise, I can't like leave it halfway stuttered or something. Not that I would want to in that case, but like, an active tool versus a passive.
I don't have a joystick module, and I can understand. I can understand its appeal. I'm not, but Like when I feel like I'm playing a video game on my modular, it's like that for me right now is just like a step too far. Like I just don't need to like transport my Xbox controller into my like that would be maybe a fun thing to do, but like
Yeah, but see,
I'm not there.
yeah, I wish I could plug it up and play it so you could hear like why I use it. We have a question that's XY joystick versus two faders. So to me, what the joystick does, especially because it wiggles back to center, it's almost like a wah-wah pedal, where it's a fader. Imagine if you have a fader and you move it and it's going to set that level, okay, but it's fading into that and it stays where you put it. But if you take a fader and you wiggle it, like that's kind of what I do with the joystick, and it's so much fun to just play with that. And so I use it in my filters. It goes into the CV input on all the filters, and I think of it like the wah-wah pedal or the whammy bar in guitar. Heckseven, what do you think?
Well, I actually, it's hard for me to talk about this because I don't have any joysticks, but
No, but as far as like a whammy bar in a guitar,
right. Like I mean, it's a performant thing as well. Like I think it's kind of fun to mess with something you can move further, which is why all of this stuff is big. But I do have some attenuverters that I just built that are pretty rad. And I don't think they're quite the same as being able to control two things with one hand, right? Like, I guess if I put two attenuverters right next to each other, and I think that's where a 2 or 3 axis joystick will be significantly better, is when you want to control two or more things at the same time.
But I think this is where okay, so I've forgotten his name, but when I describe it, I think you'll recognize who I'm talking about. So he's a performer. He's got a Pulsar 23, and he's got this like ring, which is basically like a Bluetooth receiver.
Electric Kitchen.
Thank you. And all I'm saying is like the idea of not just an X, Y, and a Z. He's probably got a Y. No. I mean, like, what would it be? Like a fucking fourth.
It's got more than 3 control aspects to it based on how you're moving your hand.
Exactly.
It's got like which direction's up, where you are in the like. It's pretty cool.
It's very cool, and I've seen it live. I've seen it like him perform live, like in the same room, and it looks like Lord of the Rings wizardry shit. And it's a lot of fun. You can see he's having a ton of fun, like huge fun. So I'm not, it's just no, and I understand why. Pardon the pun. Why you would want to have an XY like interface into that. I'm no way dissing it. I'm not at all. But it's a fascinating way to go about interfacing with these modules and with the instruments and let's face it, the reason that we're using modular half the time is because we like its tactile interface. It's not about clicking bloody mouse buttons and the rest of it. So
that's exactly what it is for me. It's just something fun to interact with.
I think it adds a fun and performative factor. Like, yes, you can do this other ways. It's modular. You can do a lot of things a lot of different ways. The Nintendo Power Glove made me laugh because I think there's even a Look Mum No Computer video where he turns a Nintendo Power Glove into something that can control various CV using because each finger is a flexible potentiometer. So the more it's flexed, either there's more or less resistance. I can't remember. So it was really trivial to take one, mutilate it, and wire it up to essentially be just attenuators, which could be pretty fun.
100%. Look, there are two things that I've been keeping an eye on in this area. One is, okay, so he lost his arm. I think he may have lost his arm at birth. So he has no right arm below, I think it's his right elbow. And so he's been using a prosthetic to get on with life. What he's been developing is a interface to replace the prosthetic that is helpful for cutting potatoes, let's say, or
Right.
like
I
opening
wish I knew that.
doorknobs or whatever. And he's built his own prosthetic, which is translating those same signals that he would use for prosthetic control into CV control. And he literally is plugging in CV jacks into this prosthetic that he's built, and he's modulating shit on his Eurorack modular system, and it's amazing to watch. And he does these updates from time to time. I'm sure if you do something like prosthetic CV control modular, I can't remember his name. It's amazing. He's a French guy. Incredible, friggin'
it's
incredible.
amazing.
It's incredible. And I really do think it paves the way into new interfaces and new ways that we could start playing around interfacing with these modular systems that doesn't require not having an arm.
Right.
And the other one is Imogen Heap. Imogen Heap, she's a British musical performer. The Gloves, right?
Right.
And she's been really spending masses of time, several years, developing this as a commercial product. Now you can go to a website, you can buy it, and it's just I love these different HCI potentials and opportunities in this front. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, and there, Antone also brought up the Sensel Morph. Like, I think we're coming to a theme that there's often interfaces that can be done with the attenuverters and things like that that are a little more performative, intuitive, fun. You can control more than one thing. They have different sensitivity, different assets, upsides and downsides. Like the Nintendo Power Glove is only a bunch of attenuators, and that's very limiting. But like the Sensel Morph, you can do a lot with. And from what I've seen, I don't have one. So I think there's just a category of control surfaces that are more performative, that just change the way you would play things or conduct things. And it's something I spent a lot of time thinking about. Like, I'm gonna unplug this thing just so I can wave it in front of the camera. But this is like the Bit Ranger, right? Like, this is a very basic example. It doesn't come with this like button grid that's like an add-on, but once you add it on, you can essentially jack in wires and use it to like essentially connect wires. Like, I'm connecting these wires with those wires based on which buttons in the grid, or more than one button. And that changed the way I play this thing. Like, it completely changed it. Like, I could do a lot of that stuff just by like patching in stuff, but it's a lot faster, more performative to be able to do things quickly, or with more, I guess, with the Morph and like probably Imogen's Heap's glove, it's probably a little more sensitive, so you can get smoother changes. Like, I think there's just a lot of fun with that stuff.
Well,
like a whammy bar.
Well, no, totally. So we've seen Ableton 11 come out. Ableton 11 now is formally supporting MPE. I'm very interested to understand, or I'm looking out for, where does the interface now between MPE and the translation of CV and their CV interface on Ableton translate into, back into the modular and the Eurorack world. And there are so many different ways that you can go about doing that transposition or that translation or that mapping between that. I think we're just touching, to pardon the pun, we're touching the surface of this next levels of expression, of touch interfaces, of HCI, and then how they manifest into the modular and the Eurorack system. So much potential.
Quick question. What's MPE? Do I need to Google this?
MPE, the short version is that it's a standardized protocol about how you're able to uh, translate physical keyboard inputs, things like aftertouch, um,
Right.
right pressure, those kind of attributes, which you've been able to like hack your way around, but MPE is the standard. Like it's just basically a protocol. And so the Roly Heckseven is the canonical example of one of the very first to market MPE um, input devices, but then turning that into something that Ableton could understand. You didn't get natively supported inside of Ableton, and so Ableton now has supported the MPE standard.
That makes sense. Like, yeah, now that you've said it, I've seen it around a few times. I saw that promoted heavily in the Ableton teaser page, I guess. So it makes sense.
Yeah,
For
and then just a little
performance
point out from
expression.
Tubac, YouTube supports MPE. I mean, MPE is a big deal. Yeah, MPE now, when you've got big companies like Ableton that aren't at the front of the game, they've been lagging. But when they're supporting MPE, that then develops a whole ecosystem layer of encouragement. Like, hey, we can go and invest in MPE, and that's going to be the next thing. And just that interface between external MPE devices into how then Eurorack can interpret and distribute MPE signals and data and that protocol is going to be a fun space to watch over the next couple of years, is my guess.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that evolves and what kind of modules we've got the MIDI to CV modules. Is there going to be like an extension of that, or like it's pretty popular for modules to have expansion modules, so maybe that expands into something that is also providing CV outputs for MPE data. So that'll be cool. And from what I understand, from what I've seen, like the MPE devices, like the Roly and the Ring, they tend to usually all have their sort of their own software package that lets you dictate, like, I'm going to control these things, maybe send this MIDI data out, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
but that's been the necessary thing, right? And so they're
Right.
spending all this time and effort and money and resources on doing exactly what you just said. And so like it's a big deal when an 800-pound gorilla like Ableton comes along and says like, hey, let's normalize to the single protocol. Let's not fuck around anymore. Let's go. That is a catalyst for innovation now, for that reason.
Anton was just saying not enough modules focus on trigger, like too many modules focus on trigger and gate outputs and not enough on CV outputs. And I tend to agree with that, but I also find um, with at least the sequencers I've used, sending CV output tends to be kind of disjointed as an experience. Like I can either program it in or I can like maybe use the mod wheel or something. So I haven't had great experience recording and sending CV data with the hardware I have. Um, I do have some CV outs on my modular. I just rarely use them.
Hey, Hex7, so quick kind of random thing. I know we didn't say explicitly this is something to talk about, but I just wanted to do a quick shout out is and just make the rest of the community aware that's like listening in and the rest of it. Clubhouse has taken off. And I know Clubhouse isn't for everybody. Of course it's not. But I'm going to do a shout out for there's a thing called Club Eurorack, which is a club on Eurorack. Or no, a Eurorack focused club on
Let's
Clubhouse.
back up. Clubhouse, for those of you not aware, is like an audio only chat room. Like you can join and hang out and chat with people. Sometimes there's famous people in there, sometimes not. Like Colin Benders has hopped in a few times and stuff like that. Um, so it's sort of just like an approachable, like random room to hang out and talk shop. So
Yeah, so it can be random. but you
Right.
can also schedule stuff. And so there's a guy called Stu J who's performed several times on EMS. Eurorack guy who's like he kicked off the club Eurorack on Clubhouse. I'm just saying, like it's kind of fun, and it's a different thing to what EMS is. It's a different thing to what YouTube is. It's a different thing to what video live streaming is. But I would encourage anybody that has either heard of Clubhouse or hasn't even heard of Clubhouse. It's worthwhile checking out. And once you get in, just do a quick Eurorack search as a topic. It'll come up, and then get involved and check it out. It's just a fun thing. Just random shout out.
That's awesome. Yeah, any more places we can hang out is cool. An audio only, I haven't tried it yet, but I'm stoked about it.
Audio only and Apple only.
I don't mind. Well, I'm biased. I have an iPhone, so it doesn't bother me. And B, I've developed a lot of applications and things. And again, as a developer, like, I'm also biased for fiscal reasons.
No, but it's a good point,
did a really
Bartok,
good
though.
reason.
It's a good point. It is iPhone only. And
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just
Right.
like,
No,
if
it's a
anybody's
really
listening,
good
it's
point.
not.
Right.
Totally.
It's only iOS. Maybe even just iPhone. I'm not sure.
No, you can get it on the iPad, but it's
It works
not
on iPad.
designed for iPad, so it's
Right.
going to do that weird 2 times the size, or it's going to be really small in the middle of the screen.
It's so janky. I have complaints about that for another talk show where we talk like application design. Not this one. Yeah. Well, I want to skim the chat real quick. I haven't been too caught up. Local video. You dumpster dove an old EKG machine to use it as an interface. Oh, to use it to interface to your computer synth. Oh, that would be rad. I want to see pictures of that, Brian, in like the EMS DIY channel at some point, or even just general. That sounds pretty cool. Even if it's unfinished, it would be cool to see that EKG machine. Yeah, I haven't. My homework is to do
so just a couple of things that I'm seeing. So Anton said, download the app, but never look for an invite. So the way it works is that if you haven't been explicitly invited, you go in, and if there's somebody in your network that has opened their contacts up, that person can basically move you up and hop you into the house. I do have like 6 invites currently available. If you want, hit me up on the EMS Discord, and we'll figure that out for sure. And then Enthusiastic Electrons said, I've got Clubhouse over the weekend, but haven't been in a stream yet. And just to be clear, these aren't like music streams. These are like conversations that are happening. There is some experimentation that's going on in some of those clubhouses where people are starting to stream music. They've just turned on high quality audio. That is nascent, but that's not the format, right? So like it's very much a voice conversation type interface. We've like CK and a couple of others on the EMS have experimented with doing like patches from scratches, like feeding in their audio, but like the quality right now is just, even at high audio quality, it's just not, it's instructive, it's not quality. So just saying.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, it'll be a matter of time before it is quality. I do have concerns about the longevity of Clubhouse. Like, I don't see them as a product that's going to last more than a year.
Well, look, man, like fucking LinkedIn.
But
it's going to be like they're going to jump in
and
and do their Clubhouse. They're going to get like destroyed by competition. So how are they going to like compete? I agree.
I'm trying not to mute Alex, but but my point is that like they have a their biggest issue is going to be it's going to be exciting for a while, but they're going to have issues with customer retention just because they can't surface good content because it's all live. Like we're going to see that evolve over time to be something that evolves into a different product. But to that end, who cares? It's the internet, or it's all electronic, it's all ephemeral anyway. Like hop on, have a party while it's good. It's going to be fun. So
Distortion.
What?
I think that was a suggested topic.
Oh yeah, that was in my suggested topics. Distortion. I actually wanted to. I just sold my Morphogene while we were talking.
What, you heathen? What?
Yeah, you can. Here's the reverb notification. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. But congratulations, your listing sold.
Lucky them.
Thanks, Alex R. But this is exciting for me, not because Morphogene is bad. It is an amazing, beautiful module. It is not good for what I like to do. Rather, actually, let me rephrase that. I just don't use it very much. And anything you don't use very much maybe shouldn't be in your setup because you have limited space. So I sold it. I instead, late night after watching videos, purchased the, I can't even remember, the Data Bender and the Icary that happen to fit in the exact same space as the Morphogene. And I think those I will use the crap out of. So I think it is a good trade. I'm excited about it. Anyway.
No, I mean, dude, it makes total sense. If you're not using a module, get rid of it. That's better than I'm doing. I'm hoarding, and I hate myself for hoarding.
Well, it depends on the module, right? Like, I've got a stack of modules that are not in a case right now because I haven't decided what I want to do with the case. But there are definitely things that I might want to use. The Morphogene is something that I think is too valuable to be in that might want to use pile. Like, it's an amazing piece of gear, and I just don't use it enough. So I think I might as well sell it and swap it out. And later on, when I'm in a more Morphogene space, I'll pick it up again because I think it's pretty awesome.
Listen, I'm just jealous because you actually made a hard decision. You got on with it. I'm just giving you shit for that.
It wasn't easy. I was like, I just got to sell all my stuff. So I put the Volca sample and the Morphogene up for sale, and the Volca sample sold pretty much immediately, and then was returned last night. I guess his daughter wanted a different Volca, so whatever. And the Morphogene just sold. So it's been an.
It's a Bbartokk. What was the last module you sold?
Have you ever sold a module? Let's start there.
No, I have. I used to build and sell, sell the Bbartokk modules, but I was trying to think of like one that I actually sold that wasn't built to sell. Probably the Noise Engineering Mimetek Digitalis, which I regret to this day.
That is the case with selling things, right? Like, or anything you get rid of, you mostly find yourself wanting it back for that one thing. But in this case, it sounds like you really want it back. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, I sold it because as much as I liked what it did and how random it was, I just never found myself using it. In a piece that I was working on, it was more of like just kind of experimenting, seeing what it can do. But my sequencer could do all of that, and I could put all that into my sequencer. So I just found myself not really using it a lot. But now I'm considering a little desktop case to have as either a teaching aid or something else, and then I see that as okay, if I would have kept that, then I would have already had this function that I really need.
Right. Yeah, that's why I'm selling it Device X. It's still for sale if you want the Volca sample with the custom firmware, but Also, I'm thinking about selling a Cosmo module, which I don't think many people sell fully built Cosmo modules. I have a second GUR filter that I really like, but I just don't see a use case until I have a second huge case or something where I have enough voices to utilize two GUR filters. So I may be selling that one. We'll see. I'm probably going to plug it in and see at some point.
Yeah, that just means you need another voice.
You know what? I'm actually thinking about a second case. Well, I have a second. I'm thinking about a second vertical thing like this, right? Like I want two of these now. But I think I'm going to start with just one of these, and I'm going to go more towards the self-contained synthesizer type thing that gets weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, this is all very programmatic, intentional, but I want to do more weird experimental stuff. And I think a case sort of dedicated to that with like a sequencer and just stuff that I don't normally use a lot of the time, like the quantizer and stuff like that, will probably be in a case like that. We'll see.
It's an interesting idea when you're building subsystems, let's say, to solve for a particular problem, or a particular thing that you want to go off and do. But I hear you on that, on the mimetic thing. I never picked one up, but even though I've got sequences akimbo, it looks like a fun way to be able to generate just like little mini sequences that is fun to play with. So, and I think that's part of the fun and the thing about Euro, like taking little subsets of things that you can probably do on another module, but then having at it with a different approach that is very specific and focused, and then playing with it, learning with it, and then just moving on. I think is just part of the way that it works.
Yeah. And one of the things that I set out to do was to create a system that I can travel with. And so if I find that I'm really not using a module that's taking up critical space, I'm not going to expand. This is what it's going to be. So I decided I really just don't see a need for it, and I'm going to sell it. And I think that's something that we have to ask ourselves, because there's also so many modules out there, and it's so easy to get caught up in like oh, here's a new module, I got to get it, I got to try this, and here's another module, I got to get this and try this feature, and sometimes we have to take a step back and say, what does it really do? What is my end goal? Not just get something because everybody's talking about it, but because it's completing the function of something that you really need. And sometimes you might have something for a long time and realize, that's the way it just doesn't work with how you want to use it, and then you replace it with something else.
It's true, but like there's something about then getting a module that does something really specific and really well, and then you realize you can do it in other ways with other stuff that you've already got. But then you've learned something, right? And so it wasn't a complete waste of time.
Oh,
it
no,
was like,
no.
oh yeah, it was like, oh, I can actually do that. Like, okay, the interface is optimized for me to be able to get this thing out of it. But like, hey, if I want to, I can do this and that with X and Y module that I've already got.
Right. I think hands-on is super important to like, not just to experiment with it, right? Like when you get a new module, you're going to play with it for a while just to figure it out, right? And learn it and play with it. It's new, shiny. But like when you're in your groove, when you're writing stuff, when you're making a new track for something, I find that's sort of the cutting room floor, or I don't know how to say it. Like that's where a module is going to earn its keep. Like if you're not using it after like 10 tracks, like maybe that should be in a different case, dedicated to a different, focused on something different that you would use it more for, or just sold.
Yeah.
Which was the case with my morphogene, sadly. I guess it's not mine anymore. It was the case with Alex R's morphogene.
Have fun with it, Alex.
It's a different Alex, I think.
No, I was talking to Alex R.
Oh yeah, have fun,
Yeah.
Alex R. All right. It's been a little over an hour. Is there anything else you want to hit? I'm a little toasty, and I'm going to keep getting toasty because it's that day of the year. But
Not for me,
check
not
chat.
for me, Heckseven, except to say that I've noticed, well, back to EMS just for a moment. I've noticed, and I'm really appreciating, there's a whole bunch of new faces in there and new performers I've noticed in the last week or the last 10 days. That is really it's really awesome. There's a lot of really good stuff, and I'm just seeing it feels like there's a pickup of more performers, different performers, new performers, repeat players. It just feels like there's more activity that's going on, which I'm super excited about, which is fantastic.
Yeah, there for sure is. There are more people. There's new faces every week, and I think when you're growing as a product or platform or community, there's always like different stalling points, and I feel like we maybe hit a stalling point for a little while, and we're just pushing past it to that increase again, and it's getting me fired up. Like at the point where I was just like, maybe you know what, Patchable is cool, but like maybe I should just start streaming some of this stuff, because it makes me want to start streaming stuff as well. It's really cool. I'm stoked to see all the new people.
100%. And then the other thing EMS related is that, like I said again, it's like this Saturday there's a bit of a DivKid takeover happening. It'll be like a stream train, not as long as some of the others that we've had, but that should be a lot of fun to tune into or pile in and check out. It'll be fun. So I'm just saying EMS is awesome, and rad things are happening there.
It is. Yeah, catch the
Yeah.
stream train on Saturday. There's Patchable, I think, next week, which will be like a New York modular on their channel. I'm playing there, and I want to say Enthusiastic Electrons as far as EMS folks, maybe more. I don't know. I'll have to look closer. But yeah, there's just Bbartokk. What are you playing next? Obviously, Erica since Black Sequencer, but
Yeah, I'm doing the New York show next week.
that's right.
Yeah.
You're the one who tagged me.
Yes.
I apologize again. I'm a little.
But
toasty.
I quickly had to remove it because somebody pointed out to me that the date on there was wrong, and nobody had caught it until I posted it.
Wait, when is it supposed to be? Because that's the date I thought it was.
No. The promotional material they made said February on top of it.
Oh, okay. So it's March 25th.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I
didn't-
just saw about an hour ago Dissonant put the new images out there.
Cool.
That's cool. Well, good luck with Bbartokk. That'll be a fun gig.
That'll
Thank
be
you.
rad.
Yeah.
Hey, let's hop on a session, not later tonight, but maybe later this week or something, and play some stuff and bounce ideas or whatever.
Yeah, sounds good.
It'll be fun. All right, I think that's the cue. Yeah, we need T-shirts for sure. It's been talking about that for months.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll try to remind, especially now that we've got new members, we should put out a shout out saying, hey, if you want a T-shirt, let us know, because I think we're at about 20-something people that have said yes, and we need about I don't know, 30 or 40 to get an order in. So
And
I don't
Bbartokk, is there a,
even
is
remember if I
particular
said
channel
yes, but-
under Discord for that? How do we do that?
yeah, there's a Get Your T-shirt channel.
All right, that's good.
I'll have to make sure I said yes. So, if you're watching EMS, I'm a yes. I will note it in channel as well.
Yeah, and I'll after this I'll put a general message on the general again. Just remind people if you want a T-shirt, let us know, and we'll get those out.
All right.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to play us out. We've gone an hour and 20, and it's been a great show. Thank you, Bbartokk and Alex, especially. I have said yes. Cool. I'm gonna get a T-shirt. Yeah, I'm gonna play us out.
All right.
Thanks, Heckseven.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Bbartokk.
Thank you.
Have a great
It's
night.
gonna be the same track though, so lower your expectations. Let's see here. Ooh, how do I do this? That's not even the right thing.